And between New Zealand and the UK, I have a new friend, and her name's Anna Friend. So there you go. Welcome to the podcast of Sexy Aging, Anna. It's great to have you
Thank
here. It's morning
you.
time for you.
It is morning. It is now 8:09 in the UK. So yes,
You
I'm
look
sort of
so
dragging
good.
myself.
Do you go to do you go to the hairdresser of bed wake ups?
I do, exactly.
Yeah.
I just stepped out of the salon like this actually, Tracy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
really
that's
good to go.
awesome. Well, that's a damn good salon that's open at like 7:30 in the morning. So cool. I'm so glad that you're here because our plan is to have a bit of a chat. Two women going through parallel lives on
Yes,
opposite ends of the
yes.
world. And I think that's pretty damn cool. So neither you or I are experts in the field. And of course, previous episodes that I've interviewed people they're either an expert in a particular area of midlife or perimenopause, and not all my guests
Yeah,
are in
yeah,
that space. They're just amazing entrepreneurs or world-class something, but
yeah,
just happen
yeah.
to be kicking butt at 50, and that's really cool. But you and I, we are women that just like to talk about something that's going on with our bodies and want other women to have a conversation too. So we connected, as many
Yeah.
of my podcast guests do, through Instagram.
Yes.
And
The
I,
power
yeah,
of social media.
power of
Yes.
social media, and I saw that you're doing a
Yeah.
podcast, but we'll talk about that later. So I'd like to introduce you to the listeners and the viewers. Anna Friend, I already told you she's my friend. She's author of the Big Little Heart series, a theatre director, so this should be fun, an actor, and
Yeah.
a podcaster, new podcaster, and a fabulous super ager. Welcome to the podcast, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you. Excellent to be here.
So, yeah, just share a little bit about sort of your background, and I'm quite curious, like, how did you come to write the books, and a little bit about your theatre background, and just share your
Yeah.
story with us.
Yeah, so I've been working in theatre for about 15 years now, sort of on and off. I trained as a drama teacher when I was in my 30s, and um, and I actually just went on and I worked traditionally in sort of traditional senior schools for a little while. And then after a while, I kind of thought I'd like to take this into more of a theatre arena. And I became a director and I started working predominantly with young people, which is actually kind of still what I do. So I have a theatre company called Quirky Bird Theatre. We run classes for young people all the way down to like age 4, all the way up to sort of age 18. We go on schools tours. So that was kind of the bulk of what I did. What I still do, actually, I still do a lot of that. So kind of in that creative arena. And then in 2016, I was lucky enough to form another company, a theatre company, which runs in Bristol in the UK, which is this beautiful, very creative city. Sort of very green. It's just a very alternative, beautiful place to be. So if you're ever in the UK, come to Bristol. And the theatre there, one of the theatres there, I run with my company called Schoolhouse, and I ended up acting on stage. And it was more kind of through the fact that we didn't have very much money and we were kind of trying to cast people. And I was like, you know what? Don't worry, I'll step in if you can't find this role. So I did that, and that sort of put me back onto the stage. So I've also been acting since about 2016, and most recently just finished a run of a play called Shirley Valentine, which you may or may not know in New Zealand. But yeah, really kind of iconic female empowerment play, which was so very apt for me to do at this time in my life. It was kind of like this amazing casting. So that, yeah, so that I've just done that. And
Hey, I
acting, and then
remember that. I remember that play, or probably I might have seen it
the
not as
film.
theatre. I saw the film. Now it's
Yes,
coming
yes.
back to me because I've just realised that it was a movie about a midlife woman,
Totally. Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Who has, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
might have seen that when I was like maybe in my 30s, and didn't even think about a lot of the innuendos and things that
Yeah,
were
yeah.
happening in the storyline. And now if I know, I'm actually making a note that I'm going to watch it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is about it, I mean, it's very dated. I mean, it was written in the 80s, and the film I think was made in the 80s or maybe the 90s with gosh, a woman called Pauline at the helm. Anyway, she's an amazing actor. And she did the stage show, and then she went on to do the film and sort of made it completely iconic. But the thing is, so many people have seen the film, and the film is, of course, a fully realized film. It has all of the different characters played by all of the different actors. but the play is a one-woman play. So the play is 17 characters, all played by me, or the, you know, whichever actor is doing the. And so I play Costas, the Greek waiter that she has a kind of fling with. I play Jeanette and Dougie, the sort of couple from Birmingham who she interacts with, the whole lot. So a lot of people, they come to the show, or they'll say to me, oh, which part do you play? Oh, who are you playing? And I'm like, well, I obviously play Shirley, but it's a one-woman show. And they're like, oh gosh, is it? Okay. And then they come and they have the experience. And I mean, it the way it's written, he's an immense writer, and it works so well. But the experience for me was very different, because I originally played her in 2019. 2019, that's right. Before lockdown, before pandemics, before I really kind of engaged with perimenopause at all. I know we're going to talk about that later, but kind of I was just in a completely different space. And then coming back to it now in 2021, when I am so immersed in menopause, so immersed in midlife, thinking about where I am, thinking about what I'm doing, who I am, all of the things that come up for us at this time, and to then suddenly play this woman, it was a very, very different experience. And interestingly, my team, my director, my producer, you know, at the end we sort of reflect on what, and they were like, it was like watching a completely different show. So yeah, it was a very special show for me to come back to. And also, of course, with the pandemic, you know, theatre, the arts, we've had a very difficult time. We haven't been able to do anything at all. And so to sort of come back with this show at this time of my life as the first show back, the whole thing was incredibly special. So yeah, it's been a journey with Shirley Valentine, and she's a Scouse, which you might not
Yeah.
know what that means, but she's got a Liverpool accent, so there was also
Well, and
that.
my grandfather was a Scouse, and he had
Oh,
the
amazing.
full Liverpool accent, and he was I just adored him, and he's passed
Yeah,
on, but you know, it was so fun to be around him, and just the humor, and
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
not taking himself too seriously, and always kidding around with us. And yeah, I mean, he was a fabulous person, and yeah, so I do know what it means.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
There's a little
definitely.
bit of me.
Yeah, yeah, and it's, you know,
Yeah.
it's a great accent to play with. So yeah, so being an actor kind of entered my life, rather than me sort of choosing to do it, but I just kind of I do en- I do enjoy it. And the books have come through circumstance. I suppose being a creative, which is, that's, you know, that's my job, my life is kind of just constantly creating stuff, you know. Um, the books kind of just came from things that were happening to me, and I think the way that I processed that is that I kind of decided to write it. All of the books are children's books, although I am about to embark on writing a series for adults. um, and they are all there to help support children and families during very uh, challenging times. I mean, some of them, the latest one is coming out in November, and that one is to help people deal with the loss of a parent. So that's a very, very extreme and very difficult, traumatic period to deal with. The first one was really to do with this situation that we've just been through. So it was called When
Yeah.
Can I Go Back to School? And it was, you know,
Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, just from personal experience as well with COVID, and talking about kids dealing with this amazing situation, life situation that we're all going through. So it's we're still kind of coming out the end of it, because we were in
yeah.
a lockdown for 9 months in
Mm,
Asia, and then we relocated back to New Zealand, and then we were waiting for my husband to arrive, and that took 5 months, because it's very difficult to get a isolation spot in New Zealand, and they're very
right.
strict. Only New Zealanders can come, but there are very limited spots, right? So we basically tripped around New Zealand for 5 months, and I homeschooled him, and he would just be like, when can I go to school? When am I, I've got no friends, you know, like he would
Mm,
say all this
mm,
stuff, and there was nothing I could do. It was heartbreaking, but we've come out the other end of it. So I know that things are going to get better, because I'm
mm.
seeing him at school, and I literally can't keep up with how many friends he's made. He's in the basketball team, he's in the swim team, he's got karate, he's got play dates left, right, and center. And I just would never have predicted this, you know,
Mm,
18 months ago, that we would
mm.
be in this situation. So I think your books sound amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been an amazing experience to even just write them, and then to sort of have the experience of having them published, and for them
Yeah.
now to be in a more of a worldwide setting, rather than it just being, I wrote it and I sort of shared it with friends and thought, well, this might be helpful for people going through this situation. And now it's obviously hopefully going to help people on a much more global scale, which is amazing. So yeah, no,
It will help. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
it's been kind of a whirlwind of lockdown. Has been, I think, both a blessing and a curse for so many people, but
Yeah.
certainly from my point of view, I mean, it's introduced me to podcasting, which we will talk about, the joy of
Yeah.
podcasting, but it's introduced me to just kind of pushing my creativity into an arena that I had to think outside of theatre, and I had to think outside of physical work. And so that kind of spurred me into action on lots of other digital fronts. And that in itself has led to loads of brilliant things, including, being here with you, my own podcast, all of that sort of
Yeah.
digital side of things. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, but I think there's no point for me. There's never any point in kind of going, oh, I wish that hadn't happened. We are where we are, aren't we? And we can kind of go. It's like, going to school and suddenly having loads and loads of friends and play dates and everything. I mean, that might be because they were lacking that so much that they've kind of gone to school with this extra energy of like this thirst of like, look, I want to learn, I want to meet people. You just don't know. So we can
Yeah.
only ever take the positives, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And one of the things I picked up on is, getting into that digital space. So, being midlife, and I'm in the fitness space, and a lot of that is face fronting. And when you're not able to do that because, your physical clubs are closed for months on end, and then you have to shift across to digital platforms, and not just, from the exercise part, but from the training aspect, like how do you train and continue to train people when you can't be in front of them? And so being able to retrain myself and pick up a new skill was amazing. Right. And then it actually just made the whole, I think I'm going to do a podcast thing much easier, because I felt like, well, I've picked up new things and this is another new thing. And so I'll just keep running with it. And I think that's been one of the upsides of the experience of COVID for me, is like, you're never too young. Old dog, new tricks, that kind of thing. And also finding my voice, which has been really cool, because I feel like there is, in the fitness industry, and it's probably more marketing than the industry itself. It's the marketing of the industry is very youthified. And when you love it, but you're still in it, you become aware of how it's promoted and marketed, and you start to, and it's one of the symptoms of menopause, doubt yourself. Right. So you start to think, oh, I'm, am I worthy here? Is this the place I need to be? Is there somewhere else I need to be? And I think part of that has propelled me outside of the fitness industry into sort of podcasting and conversations around midlife, which is more in the wellness and women's space than it is specifically fitness. But I just feel like there's been quite a few upsides to COVID. Although I also know when it does come to perimenopause, it's shone a light on that for a lot of women, and I can see the engagement and the way that things are really ramping up in the UK and the conversation.
Oh gosh,
right. And it's just that people have been stuck inside. People have been stuck inside, and they're like, I'm losing my shit, and then they're realizing that actually a lot of this is impacted by their changing hormones.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I have conversations on forums all the time with women who had no idea that they were in perimenopause. and you say, oh, well, what are your symptoms? And they'll say, oh, well, God, I'm really anxious. I can't sleep very well. I've got kind of my legs fit, all these sorts of things. They list
the symptoms.
And you're like, well, that's perimenopause. And they, oh, well, I thought it was just because of lockdown, I was just feeling really, all over the place. And so I just put it down to that. And so that, they could have had these symptoms for the last year, 18 months even. And they've really just kind of thought, well, it's just where I am. But then, and I don't know if you have the same when conversations that you have, but I just feel like that happens a lot, where women just accept it and go, oh, well, this is just where I am. I'm 45, I'm 47, I'm 51, whatever age. And they just kind of go, so just my body's just kind of like changing and falling apart a bit. So, hey ho, I'll just accept it. And then I'm always there to say, actually, no, you don't have to accept it. There are lots and lots of different things that you can do to help yourself. And even just the knowledge when I realized that I was in perimenopause, for me, that sort of changed my journey with it almost instantly, because I wasn't then kind of thinking, like you're saying, the doubt and all of that sort of stuff creeping in and thinking, oh, should I be here? What am I doing? Blah, blah, all of this sort of stuff. And also just feeling a little bit like you're losing it. When you realize it's hormonal, you can kind of just chalk it up to something and go, oh, okay, so it's not me. I'm not kind of losing my mind. This is happening to me, which I
Yeah,
always make a really, really clear distinction to people, that you must understand that menopause is happening to a woman. It's not because of her. You know,
yeah,
she's not being horrendously, I don't know, rageful or bitchy or awkward or you know, sad or any of those things because she's choosing to. It's happening to her, and so she, you know, you need to kind of have some empathy for that person, and just and give them some support. But I think also for a woman to then also realize that it's happening to you is key in your own transformation of going, okay, so how do I want to move forward with this? Am I going to go on HRT, and am I
yeah,
going to, you know, look at my lifestyle? What am I doing? You know, I think it's instrumental in that whole conversation. Yeah.
yeah.
Recorded.
Yeah, so I know what you're saying. And actually, I just wanted to ask you something about one of your symptoms and see, this is just like, I was thinking about it when you were telling me about the Shirley Valentine
Yeah, yeah.
stage show. You didn't get brain fog by any chance, did you?
I didn't, you know what? I mean, I actually did have a concern about it because um my main symptom has been fatigue. So that has been my biggest sort of worry. And when we went into rehearsal, I suddenly just thought, is there going to be a point where I'm going to completely not either blank and forget my lines, or that I'm just going to get to the point where I'm just so tired that I can't really kind of give, because it's a very energetic show. It's an hour and a
Yeah,
half of me, really.
just you. Yeah,
Um, yeah, but I haven't, I mean, brain fog, yes, but not, but I don't have it in the, I mean, I've interviewed women where it literally has been, you know, they've been driving their car and then they've forgotten how to drive. It's that sort of severe. For me, brain fog looks more like, I'll think, oh God, I must book a dentist appointment. And then I will, you know, sort of pause for a nanosecond to do something else. And then I've literally gone, what was it that I needed to do? And
yeah,
so I've kind of learned that if I think of something like I need to book it, I have to do it straight away, or I have to
right
write
away.
it
Yeah,
down. Yeah.
same. Yeah,
But amazing with the lines. I mean, obviously the lines for Shirley, I'd done it sort of 2 years ago. Um, and it was one of the things that I was a little bit anxious about, is will they be there? Obviously I had to relearn them sort of. And I think within the first couple of days of rehearsal, I said to my director, look, can we just run it? And he was like, oh, okay, it's quite early to try and run it. And I was like, I just need to see. And I ran it, and it was kind of almost all there. And I thought, oh, okay, all right. And that sort of put my mind at rest. But fatigue was the main thing. So during the show, you know, I had to kind of make sure that I was sleeping during the day,
yeah,
because all of my energy was needed at night, and like eating at just really weird times so that I had a sort of like fuel on board for the show. Yeah, being an actor is weird. It's not something that I would want to do full time, because it's just, I mean, it's so
yeah,
disruptive to your life. It's kind of like everything happens at the back end of the day, and then, I mean, like, really didn't see my family. It was just, yeah, just, but for the short time that I'm doing it, I absolutely love it. It's kind of everything. And then you kind of come back from that existence and go, oh, okay, here's normal life, whatever that looks like, but here it kind of is.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah. But I haven't had severe brain fog yet. I'm going to say the word yet, because you never know what's coming.
Well, I
But
find
fatigue,
that it really links and it's exasperated by the lack of sleep thing.
yeah.
So if you find that you get a bad night's sleep, and it's almost instant for me, the next day I will not be able to finish a sentence. And my
Mm,
kids
mm.
pick it up on me. They'll be like, you're so frustrating. Like, you say something and then you stop halfway through, and I'm waiting, listening for the rest, and then you don't say anything. And I'm like, because I physically can't. The words are
Yeah,
stuck in my
yeah,
mouth and they're just
yeah,
not coming out. They're up in my head, but they can't make the connection. And
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
really is, yeah, like, it's exasperated by poor sleep, which I don't get a lot of now. I actually am so freaking religious about going to bed at the right time and doing
yeah,
all the right
yeah, yeah, yeah.
things leading up to
Mm.
it. So what else? I mean, other than fatigue. And I think that's kind of linked to this big example of, having to perform on stage night after night and all eyes on you for an hour and a half. Has there been any other kind of, what's your worst symptom?
Well, honestly, I think it was fatigue, but I've always kind of, oh God, literal brain fog. Like I can't think of a word. I've described, hilariously good timing there though. I've always described my symptoms of kind of subtle but eroding. And I think that that's something that a lot of women would sort of understand, that or rather I find that a lot of women are kind of waiting for the massive night sweat, where your sheets are kind of soaked, or the hot flush that makes you go purple, or the brain fog where you forget your name, all of that sort of stuff. But actually my symptoms are more kind of, they like chipping away at my soul. That sounds awful.
Yeah, I understand.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind
I
of
do.
like, so I don't get sort of full on night sweats, but certainly there are times where, I'll wake up and I just sort of feel a bit clammy, a bit kind of like, oh, I just need to kick off the sheets for a couple of minutes and then I'll go back to sleep. It's not the end of the world, but it is still broken. So my sleep becomes broken. I get more cold flushes rather than hot flushes. So there's a points in my month, particularly where, because I'm still having periods, where I will just, irrespective of what's happening outside, if it's a heat wave, I will, suddenly go and get my dressing gown and sort of be in a blanket. And my husband's like, what the heck are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm just suddenly freezing, And for ages, I would be like, oh, I think I'm coming down with something. I think I've got flu or something. And then I realized it was these cold sweats. And then the fatigue, again, it's that sort of thing where I just suddenly notice at a certain point in my day that I'm like really, really flagging. And then that has an impact on my sort of nutrition, the choices that I make in terms of food. And brain fog, again, it's been that same journey of like it not being dramatic. So I haven't put my keys in the, freezer or anything like that just yet, but of always having that delay where I'm going, oh, what was I just about to do? Or words, words, like you were saying about sentences, just times where I'm suddenly going, what is that thing called that I'm trying to describe? And it's like, I don't know, a garden or something.
The newspaper, the pot, the coffee machine.
My hand,
someone's name. That's the worst. I used to think I was really good with names. And I realized that I was deteriorating with that about maybe 5 years ago, which probably would have been the beginning of my symptoms. And I wasn't aware at the time it was the beginning of my symptoms, but it was something that bothered me, because I'd be like, far out, man, I used to be really good with people's names. And now someone that I've met and called them their name has come into the room and I cannot recall their name. And it really kind of threw me. But I didn't link it back because it was such a subtle, like you said, an erosion.
But that's the thing is, I think a lot of women don't get it.
Subtle. Yeah.
There's stuff that's happening to them and they kind of just don't connect the dots at all. But also, frustratingly, and I'm not sure, obviously I don't know about the medical situation over there, but in the UK, GP training is not where it needs to be, which is why there's so much campaigning. So not only do we not put it together and connect the dots, the GP,
they don't know.
So women going to the GP for 5 years going, oh yeah, I've got tinnitus, and they're like, okay, I'm going to treat tinnitus. Oh well, I've got brain fog or what? Oh, I'm going to treat that. Oh, I've got dry eyes.
Depression.
Oh, I'll treat that. And it's like,
and next thing, their medicine cabinet is so full of all this stuff that they really don't need, right? So with your symptoms, like, what do you do to help alleviate some of the worst of it? I mean, what's your plan?
Well, so the main thing that I started doing when I kind of clicked into this, which was, I would say, summer last year, where suddenly the penny dropped and I went, oh, hang on, no, this is hormonal, this is perimenopause. Had a conversation with my doctor. She recommended antidepressants. I said, no.
That's the third time I've heard it, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it's very common over here, very common. And I was very shocked and sort of, questioned her, went back straight to like, why are you giving me those things? I'm not depressed. Anyway, very long conversation. And so I started doing my own research and I started thinking, well, I just need to be a bit more proactive and sort of, I felt like I needed to guard my body towards what was coming. obviously I didn't know what was coming in terms of menopause. No one knows what their menopause looks like until they're there, and it changes. It's a landscape. But I thought, well, I'm going to try and get myself into a better position. So I started looking at my sleep. That was one of the things that I started doing very, very quickly. So, like you, I'm very well on the whole, apart from when I'm in a show, all the
Yeah,
different things
yeah.
to challenge us. But basically, when I can, I'm in bed at a certain time to make sure that I'm going to get 7+ hours sleep. And then I get up at the same time and I go for a walk every morning. And that kind of movement and that regularity of sleep into movement. So every morning, 6:30, go for a walk, 40 minutes of walking. Um, I found that actually had a huge impact on my well-being, which and I suppose my symptoms. I think it was all wrapped up for me. It was all kind of like, a lot of the time my well-being was the thing that I was questioning the most. So it was red rage. It was getting so incredibly angry with my husband and my children and going, where's this coming from? This is really unhealthy. I don't like feeling like this. And that really abated when I started doing all of that regular walking and regular sleeping. And then most recently, I've been looking a lot at nutrition and supplements. So there's a brilliant woman over here in the UK called Claire Shepherd who runs, she has a program called Your New Life Plan. And I met her because she runs the Know Your Menopause campaign, which you might have seen on my
Yeah,
Instagram and also on my
yeah.
Twitter. Brilliant, brilliant campaign, very simple about raising awareness. And but she's also a nutritionist, a sort of naturopath. So she's not anti-HRT whatsoever, but she just, if women want to go down a more natural route, she's there. And she's very kind, and she does like free consultations and everything. So I had one of those with her, which was lush. And she recommended some supplements, which I started taking on a kind of, again, very religious basis, which is, right, I'm taking collagen, I'm taking vitamin D, I'm taking B12, I'm taking a multivitamin, I'm taking
Magnesium.
omega-3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I take magnesium as a cream. I have magnesium as a cream.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, which is lovely. And so started doing all of those things at the same time as having a conversation with my GP about going on HRT, because the conversation here in the UK is kind of changing a lot about
Oh,
HRT. And
hugely. In fact,
yeah.
I interviewed Dr. Rebecca Lewis from the Newson Health Clinic for
Mm,
episode 18, and
mm,
she completely opened my eyes. I knew nothing
mm.
about HRT, and that's why I interviewed. I didn't want to just get confused by all the
Yeah.
things I was reading, because that's probably where most people are at. They're like, I'm reading this and then I'm hearing this, and I'm like, actually, I'm just going to go to the source.
Oh
I'm going to
yeah,
go to the person who
absolutely.
can really help me unpack this conversation. So
Yeah.
I definitely think the UK is streets ahead of probably the rest of the world, to be honest. So
Mm.
here in New Zealand, there is conversation about it, but I am experiencing it myself, where I'm going to a GP and they do not want to recommend it. And I can tell them, well, I've spoken to one of the world's leading experts in this space, and I'm a really good candidate. So I'd love to be able to
Yeah.
try it. I'd love to be able to try it. I mean, if I'm going to talk about, dealing with menopause or helping people age well and enjoy the rest of their life, because we're not done yet, then I need to know what's going to happen to me. So one of the other avenues that we've both gone down, apart from that, trying to explore what's happening with our bodies, but we've kind of turned it into a conversation, and not just a conversation with the next door neighbor or our girlfriend that we always catch up with over coffee. Both of us have gone down the podcast route to really
Yes.
open up and help women become more aware of the changes that are happening to their bodies. So do you want to share a little bit about your podcast? Because that's one of the other cool things, is I have spoken to other podcasters, and we're all about, hey, look, if we do this together and we share with each other and we guest on each other's podcasts, it can only just spread further, right? So
Yeah.
this is my gig.
Absolutely.
So yeah, do you want to
Yeah.
share a little bit about your podcast?
Yeah. So I launched my podcast, which is called Taking on the Change, in, I want to say April. Yeah, it was April. I kind of decided to do it. I started thinking about doing it in the early 2021, so early of this year, just because I found that when I was having conversations, if I brought it up, if I suddenly said, "Oh, I'm going through menopause," or even if I just literally said the word menopause or perimenopause, around me there would be this kind of like, "Oh, recoiling, this sort of
this
shudder.
gasp,
Yeah,
recoil, yeah.
but not even
Yeah.
just from men, not just from men, just a generational thing, but also some women who were just like, oh no, I'm just not going to talk about it. And so I started looking around and seeing what was about, but also just felt like that conversation where it was just everyday women having that conversation. So again, it's excellent to talk to experts and to sort of get information, but I think that women love hearing that other women are going through similar things to them, and it makes them feel heard. It makes them understand themselves better. It's those moments, and I get emails all the time from women just saying, oh my God, I was listening to episode 2 and your guest said this, and I was literally banging the the worktop going, yes, that's me, yes,
Yes, yes,
yeah.
I get the same. Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
that kind of thing that I wanted to generate. And of course, taking on the change comes from, so again, it might not be something that happens in New Zealand, but in the UK, one of the ways that the menopause is referred to, or has been referred to in the past, is the change. She's going through the change, which I hate. And I hate the idea that we kind of can't just name it, just call it what it is. It's the menopause, it's my vagina, it's all of the, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like,
Yeah.
let's just be honest about where we are. So taking on the
Yeah.
change is literally that. It's like, let's take this on, let's
Take it on. Yeah.
change the conversation, let's share our realities. And so the podcast is a really good mix of, like yourself, it's a really good mix of conversations with women who are just going through this stuff. But I always tend to, the way that the series run is that 1 week you might be listening to someone who's had a really positive experience with HRT. The next week you might be talking to someone who hasn't gone down HRT route, and they're looking at sort of more nutrition. You might then talk to someone who's had a very, very severe reaction to menopause, and it's taken them down a mental health route and led them to some really, really dark places. And then I might have someone who is more of an expert, and we might be talking about sexual health or loss of libido. So it kind of, every single series, every episode, you've got something different and someone's experience which is different, which hopefully from a listener's point of view is like, okay, so I'm learning different things. I'm finding in every woman, because everybody's menopause looks differently. Like you and I will experience some common ground, but also there'll be points where it's like, oh, that definitely doesn't happen to me, and it does happen. So it's lovely to listen to lots of different voices, because in each one you might go, aha, yes, that's me, but maybe the rest of it isn't you, and but you're still learning about it. And actually I've had men on the podcast. My husband was on the podcast. We did episode 9 together, which was the end of series 1, which was just the most tremendously beautiful conversation I've probably ever had with him. It was just lovely. And I've got more men coming on for series 2 and series 3, and couples. I've had couples on as well, talking about the journey for them. So, and campaigners, I get a lot of campaigners on, of course. But it's rooted in personal experience. So even if someone's coming on and they're leading a campaign, or maybe they've got a product or a book or something, we get a lot of that, don't we? Podcasters, people saying, can I come on? I'm saying, yeah, absolutely. But, you're going to have to talk about your own experience first. It has to be rooted in personal experience. And I would say, I'm not sure if you would agree, but I would say for me, creating this podcast has been one of the most pivotal and tremendously rewarding things that I've ever done. Has transformed my relationship with myself, with kind of the tribe of women that I feel, this community that I feel, like this global 100%. Kind of like, it's been amazing.
Anna, right at the beginning of of our interview, I said we are living these parallel lives, and I feel like you've just nailed it on the head. I feel the exact same way. I've had quite an amazing career and time in the fitness industry, but there has been nothing like doing the podcast and having these levels of conversations that has swiveled my head so fast and made me realize, oh, this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is what I've been building up for, and like, it's not even a paid gig.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, but you just keep going through, because it's the testimonies and the emails and the people saying, thank you so much for talking about that, because that's how it is for me. And I just felt so alone, and then you realize, this is what we're supposed to be doing. So thank you, Anna, for the interview. Thank you for
thank
sharing.
you so much for having me.
Yeah. And for your story and your podcast, which I will share in the listener notes and when I do my social media posts. So we'll be like kind of social media high-fiving each other.
Yeah, exactly. Virtually there. Definitely.
Yeah. And hopefully one day we will meet. Yeah.
I know. I mean, the thing is, that's the dream, isn't it? That is the dream, to sort of like be able to be in a room with the people that you connect with. And I hope that would happen. It would just be so amazing.
It would be amazing. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.